The famous Far Cry 4, made by Ubisoft Montreal in November 18th of 2014, was one of the goated games of that year. This game follows a young man returning back to his mother's homeland to return their ashes right where they rightfully belong, only to be dragged in and peer pressured to take down a pink-wearing tyrant. I have returned from the west wing of my psych ward to use one of the best elements every pyromaniac gets off to: fire. Today's question for you people is, can you beat Far Cry 4 by only using a flare gun? So to make this possible, the rules are we use the flare gun every single area we can. To avoid misconception, I use bait and sometimes the cook knife just so it made it physically possible to get past some of these degenerates. The next is I can use healing syringes and crafting, since getting as much ammo for this flaming dildo launcher is paramount to my success. The third is no kills with other firearms, bows, takedowns, or anything like that. I am staying loyal to my darling flare gun. So with all these rules in my nut brain, let's get into it. The game starts with our main man AJ Gale getting stopped on the way to Kyrat by the one and only Ash Muncher. And after our lovely chat and enjoying the crab rangoon, we made our way through the palace and watched our friend here get his wildest dominatrix dreams come true. And through the door we met Sabal, my main leader of the Golden Path. Now it's time to do the 100-yard dash, and I sprint towards the car in which the driver gives us this disgusting scorpion pistol. All I did was wait using the same glitch from last time, steering in the corner, and we get into a lovely collision. We wake back up only to see our drivers being minced while we survive just fine. Sabal tells us to meet us at the Bell End Tower, and after sneaking my way through the entirety of this area, we make our way to the Bell End Tower, and after chucking rocks at these gimps, the avalanche came and said hello. Now after plot armor saving us once again, Sabal gets us out of the snow and takes us to the nearby village where we meet the goon-worthy Amita. This is where Act 1 begins. Now Act 1 has me doing a series of missions that don't allow me to liberate bell towers, which is the only way to get the flare gun early, just to clear things up. So anyways, this first act concludes destroying a wolf den, which I used the repair tool for this, climbing up our first Bell End Tower, and speaking to the infamously boring Long Anus. Now after having a lovely chat, Pagan Min decides to destroy the nearby village, and this is where we got our first ever big challenge of the campaign. Now this village part was extremely difficult to beat without firing any shots at all. The way I got it to work was winning the animal bait lottery by luckily getting tigers and bears, in which Sabal tells us we need to save Badra because she is in a burning down building. And after saving her very easily, we become the local hero, and after listening to some amazing symphonies, I decided to do a little bit of crafting to help me on this run. Now obviously if you use a flare gun, the animal's skin does burn, but I came across a revelation. These animals had a really big gravitation towards my bonnet. After them ever so inconveniently running in front of my car, we skinned the animals and did some crafting, and it was back to the worst mission yet. Now after the last mission you have to save some hostages, which you think is easy, but not being able to fire a single shot is easily one of the most painful ball-busting torture there is. But after becoming the master baiter, we used the strategy and the B-trap to finally beat this godforsaken mission. The next has us liberating a camp in which one beautiful golden cat made easy pickings of all the enemies for me. And Act 1 was finally complete. I finally went and liberated all 6 towers and got my hands on that beautiful flare gun, which is where our first choice mission is here. And I immediately choose Sabal again, and you know I can't settle for that capitalist ending. Sabal sends me to help out the nearby village by pushing back some of Pagan Min's artillery, in which after a few very poor attempts, then missing half of my flare shots, we lit all these peasants on fire and we retook the camp. The next mission is the most boring by far. We get sent to the temple to do a little bit of labor, and after doing those boring chores, we have to defend the temple. Now thank the Lord Shabibus for not making me do another one of these no damage runs. I slammed my way through this mission with my trusty flare gun, and after everything was safe and sound, we moved to the next set of missions. We speak to the boring Long Anus once again, in which he sends us to the Himalayas to scout for a weapons crate. Now this mission is very self-explanatory. All we have to do is just kill the commander of the teams, search his body for these lovely diamonds, in which in this run I didn't realize that one of the most rarest animals to get more ammo for the flare gun was in the Himalayas. So as I was making my way through this mission, I didn't think it could get any worse, or could it?
What the hell just happened? I swear to you, they could normally not be able to see through the snow, but now they can. But clear as day!
This was currently a record-breaking shitstorm for me. We aren't even going to talk about how mentally draining this bit was.
What the
So after all of that BDSM torture, we finally got what we came for, and I skipped home like a schoolgirl and gave Longanus his crown jewels. The next mission had us choosing between two leaders, in which after trying Amita's mission and failing miserably, I opted for our boy Sabal's mission. This meant burning the opium fields, which is my specialty. This mission became a piece of cake. Well, kinda. Our next mission has us talking to the infamous British potheads, Yogi and Reggie, in which after a very small explanation why they're in AJ's home, we get roofied and taken to a woman called Noor, and she forces us into our first UFC cage match. So we get stripped from all my gear at this point, and for the most part of these rounds, I let the pirates shoot each other, in which I had no choice but to use my utilities as my only source to fight back. If it was my choice, I'd rather use my hot dog as a weapon. I successfully slammed through all of these rounds easily, and we were victorious. Noor speaks to us after the match and says her family are held hostage by Depler, and she asks us to save them. I ignore that quest for now to speak to the aggressive Amita who is pushing us and explaining how the sleeping statues are about to get blown up. Well, the sleeping statues weren't the only thing that was about to blow up. I almost went insane trying to use the limited amount of flares I had and got absolutely wrecked each time I couldn't even get close.
Oh, brother.
So what did I do? I only went and restarted the whole campaign to get the snow leopards from Longanus' mission in the Himalayas. This was the most painful experience I had to do in the run yet. But finally, through my insane luck, we got enough to craft a heavy ammo bag, and it was time to return to the mission. Only to have as shit luck as before. A half passed out me still stayed up till 3 AM to return and beat this damn mission, in which the amount of flares I had now was more than enough. And I only gone and got a pirate nice and glitched and rinsed that for all I could and slammed every pirate there was. I even shot the bird out of the sky in one shot. Daddy's home. And after finally cleaning up and completing this mission, we return to Noor, where she begs us again to save her family. I make my way to the truck to sneak my way into the City of Pain, in which I can't lie, this bit took me 20 minutes just to find a way to get past this guard, only to find the back door gets me right in there. We make our way to the City of Pain, and now if you guys do know, if we get spotted, it's game over. And if you guys don't know, flares offer emergencies in which you guys can put it together. And to put the icing on top of this cake, the pirates have extra protection against my flaming dildo rounds, in which every shot I took, I had to do several more to catch them on fire, and that got me caught. So after getting extremely lucky with one of these hostages, the next one only had one sentry around, which was a piece of piss, until the last one where I shot a couple rounds and lit the bastard finally on fire. I was able to free the slave before they alerted the player, and somehow that worked, and it was time to capture the man. I made it to his office and set free the poor man about to get victimized, and surprised the player and took him out. However, taking the player to the car was quite stressful, I won't lie. So I decided to ignore all the enemies I could and just walk my way to the car whilst hiding when I could. Now, the drive to Amita and Sabal, the player tells us that Noor's family got killed ages ago and just egged her on to think that her family was still alive. What a dirty dog. We finished the drive and let this animal be taken care of. Next up, another choice is available to us to either take down the drug factory or keep it and kill the scientist inside. I obviously chose to keep it for the sake of not using anything other than my darling flare gun. I accepted Amita's request, and it was time to take care of the factory. Our first objective is to switch off the 3 generators outside the factory first. I did this nice and stealthily up until the lab was open, and I went all Terminator and ran through all them degenerates. I won't lie, I attempted several times to run through and absolutely got slammed every time, until finally getting lucky and sprinting hard enough through them, we get to the chemist office, in which we kill some hallucinations until finally taking out the real chemist. We went through the office and sprinted through everyone once again and got out of there and got a nice breath of fresh air, and the factory was ours. The next mission has us walking in on Amita and Sabal having an argument and asking me to take down Noor after hearing that terrible news. This mission has you infiltrating the control room to cause a ruckus in the arena, in which after causing a ruckus, it was time to take out Noor finally. Honestly, I was so desperate to finish this mission as quick as possible, so I kept failing because I tried to run past everybody, in which I was absolutely raging. Oh, man. But after finally being victorious and running past everyone, I chose not to kill Noor because it involved me using the 1911. After hearing the terrible news, she sacrifices herself to the animals, and Noor's finally able to to rest with her family. The next mission has us returning to Yogi and Reggie to find the inscriptions of Shangri-La. And after making my way into the temple and getting high as fuck, AJ has one of the biggest trips of his entire life. I can't even lie to you people, I have no idea what these Shangri-La missions are even about. All I know is this mission particularly, you approach a target, you take the machete that's inside of the target, and now you've got a buddy for the rest of the mission. So now you have to explore Shangri-La and spin the Marnie wheels. Best way I decided to do this without actually hitting anyone was by getting their attention and bringing them as far away from the Marnie wheel as possible, so I had enough time to do the animation and then just running away. I did this twice very successfully until we had to release the bell on top of the statue and we emerged victorious. Next up, we get a call from a bloke called Willis. Apparently, if I help him out, he'll tell us more about AJ's father. Turns out Willis wasn't after a quick favor. This first job was taking out every sniper overlooking the runway. And this was an absolute clusterfuck. It took me longer than I'd like to admit, and every time I thought I'd clear them all, another one popped up and eyeballed me who wasn't even there 5 seconds ago. But eventually, after enough retries to qualify as unpaid overtime, I finally managed to clear the snipers. Yeah! Willis finally gets on the exchange, but nothing in Kyrat is ever straightforward. It all goes to shit almost immediately. Now I've got 2 jobs: keep Willis alive and somehow deal with the army that appears out of thin air. There was just one tiny issue. I'd practically run out of flare ammo before I could kill everyone. So the way I got past this was I let Willis deal with as many of them as possible while I watched the poor sod earn my help. Once he thinned the herd, I cleaned up the stragglers and thought the worst was finally behind me. Well, it wasn't. Ubisoft then decided that one helicopter trick shot was clearly not enough, and what can only be described as divine intervention, I turned on my VAT system and that helicopter dropped like a sack of spuds. And after felt like half of my lifespan disappearing into that mission, we finally caught a break. Willis tells us about the information we are after is on a plane that's literally taken off as we speak. So naturally, we chase it down and pull off one of the biggest Mission Impossible stunts since Tom Cruise discovered the ground. We grab the intel and send the pilot a little goodbye present. And after all that effort, the files are basically useless. However, Willis somehow still convinced AJ to do business, so he offers one last deal. I help him hunt down Yuma's generals, and he'll hand over any information I came for. So off to the Himalayas we went, which, by the way, I played during a 32-degree heat wave. I immediately tried rushing the entire area because patience had completely left my body at this point. Turns out you can't just sprint past everyone, you have to kill everybody in the areas. So after accepting that incredibly obvious fact, the mission actually wasn't too bad. Although, I then attempted to recreate my Nora assassination strategy by legging it through the entire compound again. It was exactly as well as you'd expect. I got folded. So bad I rage quit, turned the game off and came back the next day. Luckily, after my comeback with a slightly lower chance of committing a felony, I made it through the temple and exited the cave without too much hassle. The final stretch of this mission was tucked outside the temple. All I had to do was kill the lieutenant and the rest of his comrades. Hundreds of flare rounds later, and they were all nicely medium rare. The lieutenant was gone, and I figured Willis had everything he needed. There was still one last favor. So we wingsuit over to Akash Temple, where Willis suddenly gets all specific. He wants this bloke to die with a knife, but apparently setting someone on fire till they're medium well isn't a valid form of identification. So I reluctantly introduced this geezer to the sharp end of a knife like a roadman in Brixton and redeemed myself by wingsuiting like a badass across the Himalayas. So we regroup with our American mate, who immediately stabs us in the back. AJ being proud of where he comes from is enough to get us sold out. Now we're captured by Pagan's men and we're dragged straight back to everyone's favorite ash muncher. Pagan gives us his usual TED talk before handing us over to Yuma, who decides the best way to interrogate someone is to drug them into another bloody hallucination. Welcome to Dagesh Prison. Our first job is building ourselves a grappling hook, which somehow turns into a survival horror game. And after scavenging the parts and dodging this nightmare, we finally escape and got clipped on the way down. We weren't out the prison just yet, but thankfully I possessed elite ball knowledge, which is the only explanation I have for surviving my escape without hitting the soul. After getting out, an avalanche starts. Right in the middle of it all, I swear I seen Bigfoot wandering before AJ collapsed. I eventually wake up to the beautiful sight of Amita. So with my near-death experience out the way, it was finally time to head into the north and secure the bridge connecting the two halves of Kyrat. My job to deliver the truck full of fuel across the bridge. The only one problem, I had to nick the bloody thing first. So after my wonderful setup, we nicked the vehicle and drove my way all the way up to the mountain. And at the end, I went towards what only could be described as the Osama bin Laden wall, delivering a petrol truck straight into it. We got into the compound and the fight begins. The first wave of Royal Guards went down without too much trouble. My trusty flaming dildo launcher was doing what it does best. Then the second wave arrived, and I realized something horrifying. I had basically no flare ammo left. I searched everywhere, nothing, not a single bloody flare. And at this point, I genuinely thought the run was over. So I took the fattest L of the entire challenge. I broke my goddamn rule. Thankfully, I didn't have to pull out another weapon though. The funniest part though, some absolute psychopath driving a grenade launcher truck ended up blowing off his teammates into pieces. So yeah, cheers for that. And after clearing up what's left, I finally got the boys into North Kyrat, and another disaster survived. We have a chat about getting some weapons in the local village up north, and the Ashman himself strolls in offering everyone protection. The people accept this offer and get absolutely smoked. I can't let that happen, so I go after him, and this was the longest chase of my entire life. I couldn't even get close enough to tickle this fellow with a flare. It was like chasing a bald Uber driver who really wanted to finish his shift. Eventually, he reaches the end of the road and jumps out. Bosh! Another successful arson attack. When Pagan comes back on the intercom and realizes it's actually not him, after that, we meet back up with the gang to listen to Pagan's latest broadcast. This bloke ends up baiting out Yuma's location, hiding away in some salt mine up in the mountains. So naturally, I head straight there, only to get drugged on what feels like the 15th time in this game. Once again, Ubisoft forces me to use a bow and arrow to destroy a gate. Then we spend a few minutes pretending to be Gorgeous George, grappling and swinging from place to place, before AJ has another fever dream of Yuma getting a kit off. We then get faked murked and wake up inside the temple where we're hunting down some geezer called Kalanag. And after making quick work of him with the bow and machete, it turns out Kalanag was actually Yuma the whole time. She just got the Hoyt special. With that out the way, we reached our final choice mission. Now before making my decision, we have one last chat with Badra. Now you know where my loyalty already lies. It's Team Sabal any day of the week. So he tells us Pagan's about to destroy one of Kyrat's oldest temples, and that wasn't happening on my watch. So off I went. Now let me tell you, this mission without a doubt was one of the closest in the entire run. Luckily for you gooners, you got front row seats. And after clearing out our first batch of guards and disabling all the bombs, the real mission finally began. Now there was waves after waves of enemies. Now the enemies weren't actually the problem. The real problem was my pathetic amount of flare ammo. Every single shot mattered. I came dangerously close to finding out what failure looked like. Now during that wave, I could only afford to miss 4 shots. Now let's see how this went.
You can f up only one flare. You've got 5 flares left. There are 4 enemies. We have 4 flares, 3 enemies. Yes. Okay. 3 shots, 2 enemies. We're going to try and get as close as we can to this boat. Give us the best chance at killing them. Shit. They're blowing up. They're blowing it up. Oh, these guys are actually in the water. Fuck. Can I shoot them through there? Oh, no, I can't. Yes! Woo!
Somehow I pulled this off first try, probably one of the biggest clutches of the entire challenge. This temple was finally safe, but the mission weren't over yet. Pagan doubled down and decided to attack the nearby village we were just in. Thankfully this time, ammo wasn't even a concern. I had more than enough flares to set half of Kyrat on fire. This mission itself was fairly straightforward. A few waves of guards and avoid getting turned into mincemeat by mortars. And repeat that another couple of times and a job done. Compared to the temple, this felt like a day off. With that finished, Sabal officially becomes the leader of the Golden Path, and his first request after that is to kill Amita. Now you know I'm not going to do that. I might have committed enough crimes to keep the Geneva Convention busy for a few decades, but now I'm drawing the line here. I did clear out a few loyalists though, and as for Amita, I let her walk away. And there was one person remains.
Pagan.
It was finally time to storm his stronghold and finish this whole mess once and for all. Step 1 was breaking open the gate, and unfortunately my flaming dildo launcher apparently wasn't qualified for that job. So yet again, we resorted to explosives. Step 2, capture the flags. Probably the easiest objective in the whole game. Step 3 was committing hundreds of acts of arson, which is our standard procedure at this point. And everything was going smoothly up until another bloody helicopter showed up.
Who the fuck is shooting me from all angles? Bro, this is so dumb. Oh, just shoot him, man. Oh, my God.
Thankfully, the absolute legend saved my bacon. Whoever this man is the true MVP of this run. After clearing out everyone else, blowing up the statue, and yet another explosive, it was finally time to make our way to Lakshmana. The finish line was here. I honestly couldn't believe it. We sat down with Pagan, shared a lovely crab rangoon. As he casually points out, if we just stayed for the dinner at the beginning of the game, none of this would have happened, which is a fair point. And after laying AJ's mum's ashes beside Lakshmana, Pagan tries making one last escape in his helicopter. Absolutely not. I gave everything I could to try and stop this slippery bastard, but he got away. And at this point, I wasn't even bothered anymore. I've done what I came here to do. So before leaving Kyrat for good, I stopped by to say goodbye to Yugi and Reggie one last time, and just like that, it was over. So what did we learn from this? AJ Gale committed an alarming number of war crimes on foreign soil, armed with nothing more than a flaming dildo launcher, and somehow got away with it.